Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another EarthEcho International virtual event. We're so excited to have Shivanti Archer join us today for a STEMExplore virtual career connection. And we'll introduce Shivanti in just a second. But I do want to remind everybody out there who EarthEcho International is. We are a nonprofit organization founded on the belief that youth have the power to change our planet. Our programs and resources have reached over 2 million people in 146 countries. And we're so excited to have everybody joining us today. We want to give a special shout out to our partners at Primetime Palm Beach County and all of their partner summer camps who have joined us today. Hey, everyone. So great to have you. Now, this program today is part of STEMExplore, EarthEcho's program that brings relatable voices in STEM careers to life with live events just like this one. And be sure to visit our website, earthecho.org, to explore the cabinet of curiosities. Now, our program, STEMExplore, is supported by Raytheon Technologies, so we want to thank them for their support of women in STEM. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping. Throughout today's program, this is a conversation. So we want to hear from you all that are tuning in. So if you are here live in the Zoom, please use that Q&A feature to submit your questions for us to ask of Shivanti. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and use that chat space for you to submit your questions for us to ask of Shivanti. We will take breaks throughout this program. And in fact, like I said, it will be more of a conversation. So we really want to see your questions coming in. So submit those at any time. So, I think I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Casey. I'm a programs manager here at EarthEcho International, and I will help to moderate today's live event along with our special guest, Shivanti Archer. So Shivanti, how are you doing today?
I'm doing so good. I'm super excited.
Yay, we're so excited to have you back. You're always a favorite of our STEMExplore mentors, so we love having a conversation with you, and I know you've got a lot of really cool stuff going on, so we can't wait for you to share your story. So
Thank you.
Shivanti, to kind of kick things off, do you just want to tell everybody out there a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do?
Yes. So, as she said, my name is Shivanti Archer. I am a transmission line engineer currently for Engineered Design Services LLC. So, Engineered Design Services is basically a small engineering firm. We have about 14 to 15 employees, and we range from professional engineers to up and coming engineers to new engineers to seasoned engineers, all the range. And I'm also the CEO and founder of Systematic Motivation. And our motto is basically to ascend the youth into the STEM field one rocket at a time.
I love that. That's so great. So Shivanti, we're going to really just dive into what it is exactly that you do. So what do you do for a living?
Okay, so I am, like I said, a transmission line engineer. So to kind of give you guys a simple synopsis of what that is, I basically design and I analyze transmission lines. And those are the big poles that you can see on the expressway. You maybe see in some mountains. You won't really see them in your backyard. That's distribution power lines. I more so focus on the high voltage, the 138 kV lines, the 161, 345, and kV is kilo, which is 1,000. So that number is 138, 000 volts. So I analyze those, I design those, I maintain them. If there's any upgrades that's needed, I upgrade them. A lot of times the poles will go from wood poles and they'll be upgraded to concrete poles or steel poles. So I have to make sure that the new poles can withstand the wires, that they can, they're not going to fall, they're not going to tip over, they're not going to break. I have to make sure that all of those are analyzed properly. Currently, all of my designs are in the northern part of the world. I'm located in Boca Raton, Florida, but I design and analyze transmission lines that are in Missouri and Illinois. And that's like, I don't even know how many states above Florida, but it's way up there. I also do material analysis with the cables, making sure that the cables can hold all of the voltage that's going through them. And we design on a system called the National Electric Safety Code. So basically, that means I cannot, there's standards out there in the world that every transmission design engineer, we have to make sure we're abiding by. So there is a safety code that we have to make sure that all the poles meet, all of the voltages meet, all of the wires, like the wires can't, touch each other. They can't swing too close to each other. So we have a standard that we have to design by. So I'm not just like making it up in my head. I have a system. They make it really easy for us. Like, okay, these wires have to be 10 feet apart. I design it in my computer and I have to throw in maybe some wind and maybe some snow even to say, okay, even if they swing this way, they're still 10 feet apart. Even if they swing this way, they're still 10 feet apart. So that's kind of my basis of how I design.
Excellent, excellent. And you did mention your other job that you have. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about systematic motivation?
Yes, I would love to. That's like my baby. So systematic motivation is basically a organization that I started about 2 years ago now. And it kind of stemmed from the fact that I love educating kids. I actually wanted to be a teacher before I became an engineer. So I said, okay, well, how can I combine this love for both into, an organization? So that's how systematic motivation was born. So through systematic, I'm able to go to different schools and talk about careers in STEM. You can be a doctor, you can be a scientist, you can be a researcher, you can be an engineer, you can be a technician, all of those different things. I talk about routes to get into STEM based on a 4-year degree, going to college or going to a university. And I also talk about other ways to get into STEM, and if college maybe isn't for you, there are so many opportunities out there for students who may not want to go the traditional route of going to a 4-year university. You can definitely pick up a trade. The linemen who actually install the poles and install the wires that you guys see either on the expressway or in your backyards, they necessarily didn't go to a 4-year university and they make a lot of money. So I just don't want people or students to think that it's so hard and I can't do it, or I don't want to go to school, or there's so many other ways to get a great trade and a great, life for yourself. So I started in the 10th grade learning about all of this. So I was like, you know what? I want to give back to other students. I want them to know just as much, if not more, than I knew. So we talk about STEM careers, what STEM is, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, how they can get involved. I have a YouTube channel about it. I have different amazing opportunities like EarthEcho that I use to talk more about STEM. I just can't stop talking about it. But yeah, systematic motivation in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we have these two career paths that you're currently on
Mhm.
together. So everybody out there tuning in, if you do have questions for Shivanti, please feel free to ask her anything about engineering or about her other passion in inspiring students in STEM. So we're hoping to see your questions. Now, I do have one comment coming in from our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County.
Yeah.
Patricia made the observation that they have concrete poles and power lines on
Mhm.
the far side of their property. So with that, do you suspect concrete poles and power lines, do you suspect that those are similar to the transmission lines that you design?
It's a good possibility if the concrete poles are, let's see, if you can see the top of the concrete pole and you can see like the wire and you can see the insulators, that's probably not a transmission pole. The transmission poles are hundreds of feet in the air. So the distribution poles that can be concrete or wood, they're usually max about 90 feet, 95 feet. I've even seen some that are 100 feet, a little bit more, but those aren't usually in the property line. The property lines usually have the smaller poles. They're 30-foot poles, the 45-foot poles, the 50-foot poles, the shorter poles.
Okay, and Patricia's chatting in that she had made the observation they replaced the original wooden poles about 12 to 15 years ago, and that she
Mhm.
thinks that they are Florida Power and Light lines.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's in Palm Beach. So yeah, they're
Yep,
definitely
absolutely.
probably distribution poles.
Awesome.
And that's a
Well, that's a
great point.
great start leading into this next question we have for you. So, what
Yes.
does an average day look like for you?
Ooh. Okay. So an average day for me is it's changed quite a bit. So if you guys saw the picture before when I was out in the field and with my hard hat on and my steel-toed boots and my safety vest, well, I'm in a different world now. So with the new company that I'm in, I actually get to work remote about 95% of the time, if not 100% of the time. So in my designing role, I'm literally behind a computer pretty much all day. So if you can see right here on the screen, this is a system called PLS CAD. And PLS CAD is a system that we use to design, analyze, change, upgrade, and maintain these power lines. So it's a system that I don't think is actually taught in college, but it's something that I used to work for Florida Power and Light. So it's something that once you get into the field or at your job, they will teach you more than likely this program. There are some universities I want to say that is starting to dabble in PLS CAD,
Mm.
mainly for utility work. So this is basically what it looks like. So the green lines, the purple lines, those are all wires. Those are the black and gray wires that you see outside, but this is how it looks inside of the system. This is what it looks like kind of at a bird's eye view. So there's the substation there, the orange stations where you see like 199, 200, 201. Those are actually the wooden poles. So those are poles, and then you can see the lines strung across. So if I have to move a pole, if I have to change out the wire, this is exactly what it looks like in the system every single day that I'm doing it. So if you go to the next slide, I want to show you guys in real time what that kind of looks like. So this is a Google Earth Pro image of the exact same, I think, yeah, on the exact same transmission line that I just showed you. So in my world, designing, this is what it looks like. It's in PLS CAD. It's just, a bunch of colors on a black field. But in Google Earth Pro, this is what it actually looks like in the field. So I basically have to make sure that what I'm designing is going to match up to exactly what it looks like in the field. And using Google Earth Pro, where, I don't have to go in the field every single day. There's no way I would go to Missouri, every single day just to see, oh, well, how many poles is it? Or is the pole wood? Is the pole concrete? Is it steel? So we use Google Earth or Google Earth Pro for that very reason. So I'm basically behind a computer. Sometimes the images in Google Earth, sometimes they're old. Sometimes it may be an image from like 2012, or I've even seen some as old as like 1990 something. So sometimes it's kind of tricky, but Google Earth is doing an amazing job on trying to keep all of those images up to date so that we can see what it looks like in real time. So that's pretty much what it looks like in my everyday world. I'm behind a computer now. I'm not out in the field sweating and looking around hard hat and boots and stuff all the time. Now I get to be in my home due to COVID, but in my home or in the office, and I'm behind this computer doing this.
So this is really interesting, Travanti. So
Mhm.
you design in PLS CAD,
Yes.
and you work using Google Earth Pro. And so
Mhm.
this picture for Google Earth Pro that we're looking at, is this
Mhm.
safe to say this is an aerial shot of somewhere in
Yes.
Missouri that you're looking at your lines?
Yes, absolutely. That's an aerial view of the same line that's in PLS CAD.
How fascinating. So just to reiterate to everyone, Shivanti is in Boca Raton, Florida. So she's working on lines virtually from Florida that are actually in Missouri and Illinois. So
Yes.
we did have a question coming in. I believe it was from Aaron,
Okay.
wondering how often you travel for work.
Ooh, that's a good question. Now, before the coronavirus, I traveled not too often, but I lived in Orlando, and every now and then I would travel down to West Palm for meetings or whatever with my company. Now, sometimes my supervisor, he will actually go and travel to Missouri to meet with the clients, to meet with, to say, hey, I know you said that it's going to be, a 12-mile long project. Well, can we go to the field and see? So sometimes my supervisor will go into the field in Missouri or Illinois or Colorado or Virginia, and he'll actually take pictures for us and bring those pictures back. So in my new role, I don't have to go to the field that often. Sometimes my supervisor does, but at my previous employer at Florida Power and Light, I was in the field just about every single day because the equipment that we were working on was like, 10 minutes down the road or 30 minutes up the road. So I was meeting with clients, I was meeting with customers, I was taking pictures. I even got to measure a pole one time. I should have put that picture on there. So yeah, it used to be every single day, but now due to the coronavirus, everything is kind of like virtual, taking pictures using drones, taking pictures using the pictures in Google Earth Pro. So it's calmed down a lot.
That's incredible of how
Mhm.
far technology has allowed
Oh
us
yeah.
to come.
Oh
So
yeah.
before we move on to our next section, we do have a question coming in from Evelyn, and Evelyn wants to know, how do you know where you need to put these polls that we're looking at?
Oh, that's a great question. So that goes back to what I talked about earlier, the NESC, the National Safety Code,
Yep.
National Electric Safety Code. So depending on the size of the pole, depending on the voltage of the electricity that's passing through the lines, that kind of dictates how far in between one pole can be from the next. So if it's, very, very high voltage, then the poles maybe, for lack of a better number, the poles could be anywhere between, 200 feet to 100 feet. But if it's smaller voltage and if it's smaller poles, the poles have to be a little bit closer. So it may be 20 feet or 15 feet, not 15. That's too short. But it's basically gonna depend on the size of the poles and how much voltage is running through the wire. So that's kind of how we know. And you want to stay consistent throughout the line. So if it's a 500 kilovolt line, then and each pole is going to be 500 feet apart, then you want to keep that consistency throughout the entire line until the end.
Okay, awesome.
Question. That's a
Thank
really
you.
great
That was a
question.
great question. Okay, so I have another question for you. What is one of the coolest things you've ever done or seen as part of your work?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. That's an easy one. So, like I just mentioned, the 500 kV lines, that's the highest transmission line that I've ever worked on. And you guys can see in the picture how big these poles are in comparison to myself. So I'm 5 foot. So I'm literally like the height of a 12-year-old. That's okay. Um, but being able to work on something like this massive, I was completely blown away. Just coming from, a small country town in Georgia, never thinking that, wow, I would be able to not only design something like this, but to actually touch something like this. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling to go from PLS CAD designing all of this and making sure the poles are correct and the wires are correct and the embedment is how deep the pole goes in the ground, making sure that that's correct. And then once it gets in the field and being able to touch it and say, I did that, I designed that, and it hasn't fallen down. Wow, it's crazy. So I would definitely say being able to design my first high voltage transmission line, that's number one.
Excellent, excellent.
Mhm.
Now we've got a lot of questions coming in, Shivanti. So
Oh,
So one question that our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County have is
Mhm.
when there is a pole that's damaged and needs repair, do they
Yes.
ever call on you to check your original plans and assist in those repairs?
Yes, they do. Depending on the engineer that was involved, we keep a record of everything. So whether the engineer has either left the company or if they're just, somewhere in another department, we do go back to those original plans to see, okay, well, if this pole is broken or if this pole fell over, what were the original uh what's a better word? What was the original scope? Like what did, was that scope okay? Should that scope have been changed? And then we go and fix it from there.
Okay, great.
And
And
that's
then I know
specifically
we have,
for, I'm sorry,
no, go ahead.
that's specifically for like FPL. The company I work for now, we wouldn't get those calls. I'm a contractor now. So like if we design something for FPL, for instance, Florida Power and Light, if we design something for them, we would, they would basically call us, hey, this didn't work out. Can you get your engineer to look at this again? And it would kind of go that way.
Sure, sounds good. So then, talking about your first high voltage transmission line, we do have a video of this.
Yes.
So if you want to talk through this, I can play this and I can replay it too, because I know it goes by kind of quick.
Okay, so this video is basically, that is the guy wire that is holding up this new concrete transmission pole. So if you guys saw, if you kind of can see it in the back where the poles are kind of brown, those are steel poles. So those steel poles were upgraded to my concrete poles. And this is just kind of like a visual of how far up in the air it is, like all the equipment that it's taking to make sure that this pole is set correctly in the right place, that it's down in the ground enough. And these guy wires are basically like strings, for lack of a better term. They're basically strings that are put on the pole to make sure if the pole is leaning a little bit this way, it has a string to kind of pull it back and to kind of keep it in equilibrium. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Now we've got another question from our friend Evelyn. Evelyn wants to know, why does Florida have above the ground wires and a lot of northern states do underground wires?
That's a great question. That's a really great question. I'm gonna answer the question in my opinion. Don't take this as factual, but I can tell you the state of Florida is, how do I say this? It's so below sea level. It's so like the water table is so high in the state of Florida that if we do decide to go underground, which we do in some places, we can go underground and it's not an issue. But with northern states, since their water table is so low in the ground, when we do put the wires and the transformers in the ground, they can withstand it a little bit better and it's a little bit more reliable because it's not dealing with water damage and erosion and all of that stuff. So since Florida, you could dig, in some places and, water levels right there. That's not a good place to put electricity. So that's my thought on it. We've had that conversation before because a lot of customers, they was like, oh, just put the wires underground or just put that underground. I don't want to see it. And it's like, yeah, it's easy to say, but it just may not be reliable. Like we can do it, but your power's going to be off tomorrow, you know?
I was wondering too, the water table. Yep, that's logical. And also,
Mhm.
I was wondering the geology of Florida, because most of Florida is made up of karst, which is similar to limestone.
Mhm. Very
And
soft.
yeah, really soft, but also, I know when I go out in my yard, I'm in South Florida too. When I go out and we
Mhm.
try and plant something, we try and dig real deep, we
Yep.
start hitting different parts of limestone or the water table. It doesn't
Yep.
take very far to go down to hit those
Very
things.
easy.
That was a great question.
Great question.
Awesome.
Mhm.
So, Shivanti, can you tell everybody what inspired you to do the work that you do? And if you want to speak to both what you do with systematic motivations, but also as a transmission line engineer.
Okay. So, what I just, okay. So They pretty much kind of tie in together. I think I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I mentioned this, but basically growing up in a very small town, Locust Grove, Georgia, we just didn't have different kind of resources and we didn't have like access to a lot of things. So my teacher in the 10th grade, Mrs. Hink, that's her picture. Mrs. Hink, she asked me, she was like, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, you're so good in math. She was my math teacher for 3 years. She's like, what do you want to do? You're so good at this. And I was like, maybe I could be a math teacher. And then I said, nah, mind you, I was like 15 at the time. I was like, no, I don't like kids. So I don't want to do that. And she's like, okay, well, what else do you want to do? And I said, I think I want to be an engineer. And I got that idea from another teacher, Mr. Gardner, who showed us a video about solar farms and wind farms and electricity and all of this cool stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this looks like something from a sci-fi movie. People are building that. That's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. And so I told Miss Hink, and she said, okay, well, if you want to be an engineer, you need to take calculus your senior year. And I was like, oh God, calculus? That's hard. She's like, no, it'll be fine. So basically, my sophomore year, I doubled in math so that I could take trigonometry my junior year and calculus my senior year. And that's exactly what I did. So when I started college, I'm not going to say it was easy, but when I started college, I was able to be on the right track just for Miss Hink, pulling me aside and saying, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? Okay, if this is what you want to do, let's make sure you're on the right track. So I never thought that I would actually work for an electrical company that designs solar farms and wind farms and all these turbines and stuff like that. And here I am. And in doing that,
And folks, hang on one second here. It looks like we lost Shivanti. So let me just see. Here we go. I think we're going to have her back in just a second. Here you go. Okay, Shivanti, maybe unmute your microphone.
can
We
you
had a
hear me
little,
now?
yes, we had a little glitch there. We have you back. Excellent.
So sorry. We have a thunderstorm happening like right outside the window. So my internet may get a little choppy. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of where I got the idea of being an engineer, and systematic just kind of formed itself. We started doing a lot of volunteer work with the company I used to work for, and I was like, man, this is fun. I want to do this all the time. So systematic was born. That way I can create the lesson plans and I can create, the kind of content that I feel that kids can really relate to and students can really relate to make STEM fun. So that's kind of where it all happened.
Absolutely. That is great. So another question that goes hand in hand with this discussion right now is
Mhm.
how do you balance both your job and systematic motivation?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm still trying to figure that out. It's a lot. It's a lot. I'm not only the oldest sibling of five. I am a wife. I am a puppy mom. I am a best friend. I'm a sister. I'm, all these different kind of hats. And what I just try to do is, my normal job, 8 hours a day. After that 8 hours, if I can squeeze in an hour of time to myself or an hour of time to, reach out to EarthEcho for an opportunity or to reach out to the 4-H club in, the county, I do it. It's because I have such a love and a passion for making sure that people who come from a similar background like me have the opportunity or know someone that looks like them and says, hey, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I think that's kind of what pushes me to keep going for sure.
That's awesome. And we do have a question coming in from Nicole, and this question actually goes hand in hand with my next question for you. So I'm just going to ask them both together. So
Okay.
Nicole's question is, what is one of the hardest parts of your job? And the question I have for you is, are there any hardships that you've had to overcome and how have you done that?
Oh, those are both really good questions. I would say The hardest part of my job of what I do today is feeling like I don't know everything because I don't. I don't know everything. I still have to go through the manuals and say, okay, well, if this is a 345 kV line, what is the spacing or how am I supposed to do the insulators? So I think the hardest part is still trying to get comfortable with the technical terms of the job. That's for sure the hardest part of my job now. Now, to your question, Casey, some hardships that I faced. There's there's been so many. I don't even know where to start. Um, but before I go into them, I just want to say that every hardship that people go through, you should take those and turn them into something positive. Turn them into your story because they're a part of you, good, bad, or ugly. They're a part of your story, and that's what makes everyone so unique. So my parents had me at 15 years old. My dad was a little bit older than my mom, but my mom was 15. And from the gate, it was kind of like, oh, is she gonna be like that? Is she gonna go to school? Is she gonna, it kind of felt like all of the odds were against me. I even, sometimes felt like, yeah, I just want to do nothing. Like everyone already thinks that I'm just gonna be nothing. I might as well just give them what they're looking for. But it was just something inside of me that was like, nah, you can't do that. You're born for greatness. You came here to be great, so you better do that. So I did that. I think I'm on the track to do that. So just coming from that background, not thinking that I would ever go to college. College was, I applied to Georgia Tech actually. Georgia Tech is like a major, smarty pants university in Georgia, and I didn't get in. I didn't get in. I got rejected, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not good enough. I'm not smart. I'm not, all of these crazy things. And I applied to Georgia Southern. So I only applied to two universities. Georgia Tech, didn't get in, and then Georgia Southern University. And they accepted me. They were like, yeah, come on down, whatever. And I actually was one of the first graduating class of Georgia Southern University with a mechanical engineering degree. At first, we didn't even have a 4-year accredited degree program. We had to transfer to Georgia Tech. But by the time I got to my junior year, we actually had our own engineering degree program. So I was one of the first college graduates from Georgia Southern with engineering degree. So I overcame it. I was like, okay, throw it at me. Here we go. We're going to do it. And I tried and I did.
That's great. You have such a good story, Shivanti. And
Thank you.
you're just so incredibly positive, and I love your advice to, take something, if something's got you down, if something is a
Mhm.
challenge, spin it
Mhm.
and make it positive, make it a life lesson, really.
Yep.
So just coming off the heels of that, what other advice would you give to students out there?
Ooh, that's good. I would definitely say be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. Never let anyone tell you that you can't do something, that you're not good enough for something, that these things aren't given to someone like you. That's all garbage. That's all garbage. Do not listen to them. If you see, this is me when I was like maybe 5 or 6 years old. If you would have told 5 or 6 year old if you would have told 10 or 11-year-old Shivanti, hey, you're going to grow up and you're going to be an engineer and you're going to work for amazing companies and you're going to have amazing internships and you're going to graduate, with over a 3.0 GPA, and I would have looked at you like you were crazy. I would have been like, no, that's not going to be me. And it was. So you have to keep believing in yourself, get a positive mentor. All of my track from elementary school to middle school to high school to college to now, I still have a mentor. I still have someone that I look up to, people that I check in with just to make sure, I'm on the right track, people who are always pouring into me into a positive way. You know, someone who's always telling me don't stop, someone who's always telling me, yeah, go for your goal, go for your license, do this, do that. Always keep someone in your corner like that. And I promise you, you will be able to achieve every single goal that you have. My husband is amazing. He pushes me more than I can push myself sometimes. And I'm like, oh, stop. I don't want to do that. And he's like, no, you said you want to do it. You're going to do it. And, you know, I do it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I could do that. So that's definitely my advice. Like, don't let anyone tell you no. Don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough, because you are. Everything you have right now is all that you need.
That's great. Thank you for that. And you saying get a great mentor ASAP. Well, I don't think this is a news flash. You yourself, Shivanti, are a fantastic mentor to so many people
Oh,
out there. You are just such a wonderful
thank you.
example. And our friends at Primetime Palm Beach County are singing your praises in the chat. They're saying that you have wonderful energy. So
Oh, thank
yeah,
you.
and I wholeheartedly agree with them. So Shivanti, just a couple more questions before we wrap up. So what innovation are you most excited about in your field?
Oh, that's a easy one. So, I mean, no one could have ever predicted that the coronavirus was going to attack the world the way that it did. No one could have ever, I feel, saw this coming. So, with a lot of companies, whether they had to lay off their employers, whether the schools had to, make everyone stay home, I think this was a wake up call for a lot of companies to realize that your your workforce has to be able to continue whether they're going into an office building or not. So to be able to have the technology that we do now, I didn't feel a layoff in my job. I didn't feel any kind of economical, imbalance. I didn't feel any of that, because everything that we do in our office, we can do right here at home or in the Bahamas or in Timbuktu, in Africa, whatever. I can do my work and do my job efficiently anywhere in the world. And that's a huge thanks to Google Earth. That's a huge thanks to drones. That's a huge thanks to all of the emerging technology that is allowing us to be all over the world, and we're still right here in the comfort of our home. So in the bottom left, I might have my lefts and my rights. No, yeah, in the bottom left corner, you guys can see that is a PLS CAD image of a pole that I was designing. Well, I said, oh no, I don't know. There's like some images in the back of this poll that I couldn't really see. I didn't know what it was. And if you go to the very middle picture, you could see that the Google Earth picture of this exact same poll that I was working on, there were cows in the back of the poll, and I couldn't figure out what was it. And I mean, thank God that the Google image was still so it was so recent that the cows that were in my image they were kind of like pixelated and I couldn't see it good, that they're still there. So being able to have this kind of technology, I didn't have to drive to Missouri. I didn't have to fly to Missouri. I was literally able to use the technology that has been given to us right there in the comfort of my own home. So I would definitely say the use of technology and where it's taken us, I mean, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
That is truly incredible. Wow, I would never have thought that something you were seeing were cow.
We're
Um,
close. Mhm.
so thank you, Shivanti. We've got another question coming in from Evelyn, and Evelyn wants to know, did you ever want to build solar panels?
Ooh, that's a funny question. I had a question about that yesterday. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This is a real transparent moment that I go through. As awesome as you guys think I am, thank you, but that's intimidating for me. That building solar panels, designing solar panels, that's something that I've never touched. That's something that I've done a little research on, but not too much. And I'm scared. Like I don't think I can do it. I think like I'm not smart enough for that. And that's crazy, but it's real. It's a real feeling. So I've thought about it, But I'm like, I'm just gonna stick to the poles and the wires that I know what to do, that I understand. But that's really cool. But that same fear, if I were to tell my mentor or someone who's like, super positive, like, no, if you want to learn how to work on solar panels and install solar panels and design them, you go learn how to do it. So that's my advice for that.
That's great. Thank you. Those are great questions. Thank you, everyone,
Mhm.
so much. Now, I want to put up our contact slide for you, Shivanti. Everyone out there, please keep track of Shivanti and the amazing things that she's doing. She's put all of Systematic Motivation's information here. You can follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and you can even email her as well. So, Shivanti, while everybody's capturing this information and starting to follow all of your channels, do you have
Mhm.
any last words of advice or wisdom for any students out there living in this world that we are living in right now?
I know, right? It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on. But I would definitely say listen to your parents, listen to your teachers because they're never going to steer you wrong. It wasn't my parents who didn't even know, and my grandparents who didn't know what an engineer was. It wasn't them who kind of motivated me to go into this path. It was my teacher. It was my teacher who saw me about 8 hours a day, Monday through Friday, took an interest in me and wanted to see me succeed. So if you have people like that in your life, listen to them. Even though if it's something that you're like, oh, I can't do that, that's too hard. No, listen to them. They're going to be there for you. I'm here now as help, a mentor, whatever you guys need. Definitely reach out to me. There's going to be some changes coming up with systematic motivation, but I'll definitely keep everyone up to date. Casey is going to be up to date with everything. But yeah, I think that's my advice. Listen to your teachers, listen to your parents. They are not going to steer you wrong. I promise you. I promise.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shivanti. It's always
You're welcome.
so wonderful connecting with you and talking with you and, helping you get the word out there about the amazing work that you're doing with your engineering career, but also with systematic motivation as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And everyone out there, thank you for joining us as well. We're so excited to have you here. You can stay tuned with all of EarthEcho's programming, our virtual events just like this one. Visit us on all of our social media channels. Be sure to follow us. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe. That way you'll get alerts when we roll out new recorded content as well as new live virtual events as well. So here is all of our contact information to stay connected with us. And again, thank you all so much for joining us. Everyone out there, please stay safe, stay healthy, and keep exploring. Bye-bye, everyone.